spotted in helping develop policy. Those have focused on things like targets for effective climate mitigation in the UK and the public mandate for climate change adaptation, but we're also working on ones on geothermal heat networks and the co-benefits of climate adaptation and mitigation actions. We also spend a significant amount of time engaging international policy, particularly around the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which brings together the annual COP meetings. The most recent one happened in Baku, and the next one will be in Brazil. And we really want to use this as an opportunity to allow our staff and students to engage in those negotiations and hopefully influence them. And we're particularly focusing around youth engagement, given the need to help bolster ambition globally on climate change. One of our flagship initiatives is the Indicators of Global Climate Change, and this is a group of scientists, more than 50 scientists from 40 institutions that have come together to provide annual updates of key global climate indicators using methodology from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So those scientific assessments happen on about a 7-yearly cycle, and the aim of this initiative is to provide annual updates to help decision makers and to help us really understand the state of the climate as climate change progresses. Next slide, please. We also have a significant role in thinking about how universities themselves become resilient to climate change and net zero. So we're helping our own institution to deliver on its climate plan using the research and expertise we have in the university. And we're also working with the wider sector through the UK Universities Climate Network to bring together academics and practitioners within our institutions to help the sector as a whole. And finally, we're establishing a set of living labs, which are about trialling sustainable and scalable mechanisms of delivering a resilient net zero transition using our campus and the wider city. So a couple of examples, the piece of artwork here is representative of Gare Wood, which was a piece of university-owned land near Roundhay, and that has had 66,000 trees planted on it in its first year to provide a space for the local community, increase biodiversity, and provide research and educational opportunities, with a co-benefit of also providing a small amount of offsetting for the university. Another living lab that's happened on campus has been some drilling to look for the potential for geothermal heat on campus. Next slide, please. So I was asked to reflect a bit on what Climate Futures means to the Priestley Centre, and so I wanted to come back to our mission. And really, for me, the key words are about collaboration, just and actionable climate solutions, and really about this better future for our communities, our region and our world. So we don't just need to mitigate the emissions in order to tackle climate change, we also needed to adapt and build resilience to the climate change we've already locked in. And I really think collaboration is at the heart of this, and opportunities to work with the creative and cultural sector are really integral to the work we do in the centre. So that's why it's been so great to have this opportunity to collaborate on these creative labs. And we've had a whole host of opportunities in the past through our PhD students, for example, who have been using puppetry to study climate change, through a previous creative lab where a marketing agency and an academic were paired and came up with tools to help with them to engage stakeholders in their research development, musicians using climate data, and also working with communities in Indonesia to create artwork and games that help communicate the effects they feel from climate change and the lack of justice in that space. And then we've also had opportunity to have an artist at the university create a vision of the future for 2075 based on inputs from people at our launch event. So it's really great to have this opportunity to work with the Cultural Institute on these creative labs. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Shona. So now we're going to hear from Morgan Thomas, who is a PhD researcher, and he took part in labs last year. So we have a video interview of him that we're going to share, where he shares his experience of being part of the programme and going through the process. If you can play that, please.
Yeah, I think I've always been a creative person. There's a time before I started my PhD where I thought I was going to go into some scientific communications and scientific illustration, but I ended up coming and studying a PhD. And doing a PhD, you don't get that much creative outlet. I think I spend most of my time fiddling with figures, trying to make the figures and graphs look nice. So yeah, this Leeds Creative Labs was a great way to scratch that creative itch. And also learn something new. I'd say, get out of your comfort zone a little bit, get into a world that you're not familiar with, but it actually wasn't that uncomfortable. It was actually a very comfortable experience, so I don't want to use the words get out of your comfort zone. And yeah, I wanted to learn something new, learn a new skill, and maybe develop a new hobby off the back of it at the same time. So the Leeds Creative Labs was sort of forwarded to me through the outreach group that I work with in the CDT. And off the back of that, we wanted someone to apply. And so I wrote my application, wrote why I was interested in getting involved with Leeds Creative Labs, talked about my research, and then I got an email, I think a few weeks later, that said, congratulations, you've been accepted onto the programme. We're going to do an introductory event where you'll meet your artists and who you've been paired with. And so we rocked up there at the University of Leeds. And I was introduced to Sue, who is a sort of light puppet lantern artist. So I think it was immediate as soon as me and Sue met each other that they put a lot of thought into the pairings of the academics and the creatives. And then from there we were sort of given the freedom to do what we wanted with that experience. I think we were sort of put together and sort of left to think about what we wanted to do with that time. And so Sue came over to the University of Leeds. I gave her a tour around the kind of areas that I'm involved with. I sat down with her for about 2 hours and gave her a whole undergrad molecular biology lesson, which she lapped up really well. I went over to Hebden Bridge and we went hunting for curlews as part of a project that Sue was working on, and she showed me around her studios, which was really interesting. And we also went down for a day trip to London, which was a really, really great day out. I went to a few exhibitions. We went to the Francis Crick Institute, who had a Hello Brain exhibition on. We went to something called The Light, which was a sort of light projection exhibition, and also the Tate Britain as well. And it was really nice having that experience in an art exhibition or a sort of art museum with an artist, because usually I'll walk around and have no clue what's going on. You're sort of just looking at it from a sort of non-expert point of view, but having someone who knows what they're talking about and sort of talk around the art a little bit was a really, really nice experience, and I really enjoyed that day out. And then after that, we sit down, talk about what sort of science, what the science could look like in the sort of art world that Sue works in. And at the end of that, we all got back together, all the pairings. I think there were 6 pairings, and that was in Bradford Producing Hub, and we were talking and sort of networking with the creatives, talking about what we got up to, what our ideas were, and then we all presented what our experience was like as part of Leeds Creative Labs. Subjective experience of Leeds Creative Labs. It was very much a sort of low pressure environment. I think before I got involved with this, I was a bit worried that maybe I don't have the expertise in sort of the art side of things to contribute meaningfully, but it was a very low pressure environment, and very supportive as well in terms of putting two different minds together and seeing what happens, and whatever happens, that's okay. I think I'm subconsciously more creative in terms of the problem solving, and I think as a scientist you're kind of locked into a world surrounded by other scientists, and you sort of have this sort of preconception about science, and you maybe don't look at the science from a different angle. And so as part of this experience, talking to people who aren't exposed to science, so people in sort of the other side of the spectrum of the professional world, they sort of ask you questions from a different angle and make you think about your project in a way that maybe you haven't approached it before. I think the most interesting questions I've been asked have been from people who aren't involved in science at all. And it definitely is a learning experience talking about your science to people who aren't involved in the science world. And I think it's a real skill and art trying to explain what you're doing to people who aren't involved. And I think that's really important as well when talking to, say, the public about what you do. If you can't explain why your research is important to someone who's not in the world, then maybe it's not as important as you think. I think you have a lot to gain from applying to Leeds Creative Labs, and there is nothing to lose. I think the Leeds Creative Labs organise everything for you. They give you some money for expenses as well, so you really have nothing to lose. They do all the work for you, and it's really well organised, and you have a lot of support along the way. And yeah, you potentially have a lot to gain. So you could gain a new hobby in the art you do. As me and Sue have done, we've applied for the follow-on fund, and we've got funding to develop our idea. You can make some new friends along the way. And also it makes you think about your project from a different angle that you maybe wouldn't have thought about before. And for me, that's been really, really important. And it's given me a lot of new ideas and a lot of more, I think, passion for my research as well, in terms of having a grounding in why I'm doing things. Get the best out of the experience as an academic. You want to really immerse yourself in the artist world as well. I would say put yourself in the shoes of the artist, have a look at their studios, have a go at the art they do. Really take this as a learning experience and trying to gain a new skill. I think booking in days early with the artists, getting involved in person, sitting down, having a coffee, talking. I definitely enjoyed going out and seeing exhibitions. Me and Sue have been to a lot of light nights, and we really enjoy those days out. It gives us a lot of inspiration for what we want to do, and you're allowed to see other artists and what they're good at as well, and sort of incorporate that into what your ideas are too. So definitely get out there, see some exhibitions, see each other in person, and yeah, sit down, have a coffee and talk about your research and talk about their art, and the ideas will flow.
Mentioned. So Sue, are you there?
Hi, I am here, and I'm
Fantastic.
Huge apologies why my camera is not working. I do not know. It's always the way, isn't it? Technology. So yeah, I'm here. Do you want me to just carry on?
Yeah, it'd just be great if you could share your experience of the process and from the artist perspective. Thank you.
Okay. So the first question that we had was, why did I apply? I applied for a few reasons. I had been interested in kind of scientist artist pairings. I went to an exhibition at an event called Bright Nights, which is in Barnsley, and there was a really brilliant example there of a scientist and artist pairing that I was so inspired by. So I did want to know more. So I kind of knew a little bit about this already. I'm very much connected with Bradford Creative Lab creatives. So through them I got to know about this and applied. And I was so pleased to be accepted. It was such a great experience. I think I'm really interested in, I think, in terms of being able to deepen my artistic expression and projects with backed up information. So I think that was something that I was really interested in, deepening the knowledge of creating artwork, having more reasoning behind it, having more just that connection with a scientist and a different perspective. That's not my field. So learning new knowledge, I think, was all those reasons why I applied. My experience was all really positive. I absolutely loved the experience. Morgan started telling you a little bit about that. We all got together and met all the pairs and what they were doing, which was really fascinating because everyone came from very different perspectives. That was great. I think in terms of the overall feeling very valued, actually. Often as a freelance artist, working on your own, working quickly from different project to project, it was really nice being on something that just took a moment, took a breath. You had time to explore, you had time to understand each other's perspectives. I loved that. It was really brilliant. I felt like I'd been given the golden ticket for a short period of time, which was really, really lovely. I really loved that. I think what I gained from the experience, I'll talk a little bit about what we did within our project. As Morgan started telling you a little bit, we visited each other's working environments. I went over to Leeds, and it was great to see where Morgan was working, to understand he was very much a dry lab rather than wet lab, so it wasn't going and seeing hands-on things. His work is very much, he works with AI within his research, so he's very much on his computer, very much in that world, which is definitely something that's very new to me. So it was brilliant to go over to Leeds, to the university, to lap up that kind of experience. We unfortunately couldn't go to wet lab, and we are going to go to wet lab, which is great. We then had a trip to London, which was absolutely amazing. We both decided to choose an exhibition that said something about us and our work. So going to the Francis Crick Institute, the Hello Brain exhibition was really, really, really valuable in terms of understanding Morgan's world. The exhibition was very much layman's, it wasn't totally simplistic, but the exhibition was really wonderful in terms of illustrated work. And as you can see in this slide, there was some artists' work that was part of the exhibition that really brought it alive. And for us, in terms of exploring that very thing about an artist working with a scientist, it really brought that into being and was really inspiring. So that was a great exhibition we went to. We then went to an exhibition called Delight, which was all about South Korea. I'd chosen it because I spent quite a lot of time working in South Korea, and I just felt that the exhibition really connected with me in terms of my experience in South Korea, and also with the light art and the projections and all that kind of work that I'm really interested in. My work is more about lanterns and puppets, but there wasn't any exhibitions that really touched on that. So going to Delight, really, it was really exciting. And there was one room in particular that we really felt like we were in a brain room, with different colours going on and off, and interactive. So we got a lot of inspiration from both these exhibitions. And the third one, we decided to go to Tate Britain, and because there wasn't really another exhibition that really sang to us, and we felt going to Tate Britain, we'll just see what comes up. And actually it was really fantastic in terms of the two of us getting to know each other better, because we weren't necessarily talking about our own subjects, but it came up in topics in different paintings. So that was really beautiful. Really, really, really loved that. I've got some notes here. So the last question, which was what I gained from the experience and future work. We applied to the follow-on fund, which was brilliant, and we were absolutely delighted to be accepted for the follow-on fund. So that's probably the main thing that I've got out of this experience, apart from, I think, the connections that I've made, deeper understanding, seeing where other artists are coming to, and a network. That's all been really, really great. In terms of this follow-on fund, so we've started the project now, and we have been exploring some light nights. Late last year, we went to Chester Zoo, where there's some really exciting puppetry and light art exhibitions. We went to Doncaster Light Night, which was one interactive piece in the cathedral there. And we also went to Wakefield Light Up the North Symposium, which was fascinating. It was great seeing Morgan there. I knew a lot of people who were there, and Morgan, you know, so I was introducing Morgan and giving him challenges to find out certain information. That was really great. The general theme of our project that we're developing is called Illuminating Minds, Neuron Puppets, and the basis of this project is steps along the line so that we can then put in an application to hopefully bring the neuron puppets to life. And within this project, we've got a few things. One was going to the Light Nights and exploring new ideas. We've got a mentor Zoom coming up, which is going to be really exciting. So we've invited Leeds University electronics and engineering students. A couple of those are going to come along. We've got a lovely guy called Dave Lynch, some of you might know. He's from Immersive Networks. He's got a lot of experience. He was actually also one of the Creative Labs early on. He was one of the artist scientists in the Creative Lab program, which was really great. And he's got a lot of immersive technologies in his background, so that's kind of where he's coming in. We've also got an artist called Duncan Chapman, who's got a lot of experience with the outdoor art scene. Again, with sound, he that's his main thing. He's a sound technician, recordist, soundscapes, all that kind of element. I'm hoping that he might be coming to record some brain activity. It'd be really exciting. So we'll see. And then we also have an amazing puppet maker called Charlie Timms, who's really exciting. I'm so pleased that she agreed to come with us. I first met her in 2023. She makes incredible artworks, which you will have seen at theatres and TVs. So she's a really exciting person to have on board. So we're going to have this kind of 2-hour conversation, so to speak, presenting our ideas and then just seeing what comes up. Really, it's going to be quite an informal conversation about sound, movement, puppetry, and all that kind of engagement. Be really exciting. We're really interested in Arduino systems, sensory systems. We're really at a beginning learning, seeing what comes up. I'd like to learn something new. You know, you don't know what you don't know. So it's a very open conversation. And then the final part of our project is to have a workshop scenario where we'll present our findings and present some ideas, some interactive ideas, and get some feedback from that, and that will all go into our application, basically. So that's what our current project is, which is really exciting. Who knows where we'll go from there. Hopefully we will create the puppets and have them for nightlight exhibitions. I can imagine them being into schools. Morgan goes into schools and talks about his research, and also just using it as an awareness tool for brain cancer research, I think. But again, I feel there's more to learn through this experience, finishing up in the end of March. So that's a bit about me, I think. If anybody's, I think we've got a little bit of time, but yeah.
Great, thank you, Sue. Thank you so much, Sue. That was great. Thank you for sharing your experience. So what we'll do, thank you. So we'll talk through. Yasmin will talk through the application process and just the practicalities of that and how it works and the schedule. While Yasmin's doing that, if you have any questions that come up, if you put them in the chat function, then after Yasmin has gone through the process, we can have a look at those questions and have a bit of a Q&A. Over to you, Yasmin.
Great, thank you, Emma. Just because I just want to bring in some of the benefits that Morgan spoke about just before I move into the application section. So some of the things that he talks about in the video, which we weren't able to see, but we'll send over, is that the process allowed him to look at his research through a different angle. And he said that working with an artist and someone outside of his field was really interesting, because some of the most interesting questions he ever got about his research is from people outside of academia. And he said that's like really, really beneficial to the way that he looks at his work. And has learned lots of new skills, and also said really enjoyed walking around an art gallery with Sue, who actually knew what they were looking at. So yeah, so that's that was sort of a summary of what Morgan had to say. In terms of the applications, so the way that it works is that artists and academics apply separately through our application form, which is now live. The applications are short, but we recommend to read the guidance very carefully. Some of the common mistakes that we see in applications, which I'd like to reiterate here before people apply, is on the academic side, often academics ask to work with a specific artist to produce work in response to their research. And if that's what you're looking for, this isn't the program. This is a program where we invite artists and academics to come on an equal footing and to collaborate on ideas and thoughts and discussions. And also from the artist side as well, sometimes artists have said, I'd really like to work with a researcher who is researching this very specific field. Again, we don't know how many applications from academics we get. We don't know what backgrounds they're coming with. So I would approach that question more around themes that you're interested in, rather than be very, very specific. Just to let people know, we receive over 80 applications on average. So we normally get about 50 to 60 applications from artists and about 15 to 20 applications from academics. Once the applications come through, the panel will undertake a matchmaking process. Sometimes, as I say, it might not be so clear to the artist or the academic why the pairing has been made until they meet their partner. In the past, we've matched up biochemical engineers with choreographers, economics with hip hop dancers, and, you know, in Sue's case, a puppet lantern maker with someone who works with AI and medical research. So the idea is to look at the common threads and the general themes. And because this one is themed around climate futures, then that might be easier in that way. As part of the program, we expect that you are available on the launch date, which is in April, and then the sharing event in July. So at the opening event, that's where you meet your partner. We do some collaborative exercises with the whole cohort. Then everybody goes away and decides what way works best for them. Do they want to meet at a gallery? Will they get invited to somebody's lab? That sort of thing. There is an expense fund. There's £200 that you can use that will contribute towards to cover these costs. And then at the sharing event, it really is a matter of just sharing the conversations that you've had, photos that you've taken. We're not expecting anyone to make anything. Sometimes people have brought stuff that they've made, prototypes, because sometimes when you ask people not to make any work, they come up with their best ideas because there's no pressure. And just a bit on finances. So artists will be paid into installments, 50% up front, and then 50% after the sharing event and the feedback form. I think those are the main bits needing covering. All of the information is on the Cultural Institute website for both artists and academics, and the application form is live. We are setting up some drop-in sessions, which we will advertise via email, so check your emails, about 15-minute slots with the team to ask specific questions about your application. Academics, and I know that there are some academics who are artists and some artists who are academics, but for the purpose of this, if you work for the University of Leeds and you are a researcher, I would apply as an academic. And then if you're an artist who does some research, but you are a freelance artist, then please do apply as an artist. I think that's it from me, unless I've missed anything, Emma.
Thanks, Jasmine. So we will go to a Q&A. So I know that there's some messages in the chat.
Yeah, so I'll just read these out and you guys can answer them, whoever is most fit to do that. So the first one is, what is the time commitment or expectation for the lab?
Do you want me to take that, Emma?
Yeah, Yasmin, if you could take that, thank you.
Yeah, so we're expecting 3 days working time. That could be split up across. So I think the launch event is on the 4th of April and the sharing event is the 3rd of July. So between that time, we ask people to meet up to the equivalent of up to 3 days.
And how does the selection process take place, and who is on that selection?
Yeah,
committee?
so we have a panel that will select pairs, and that panel is made up of experts that are from the artist perspective and from the academic perspective, specifically around climate futures as well, because that's who we've partnered with. That's the theme of the iteration this year. The panel meeting, they will the application deadline's the 14th of February, like Yasmin has said, and then the panel will meet the week of the 17th. And then on the 10th of March, we'll announce we'll have contacted the pairs before that and announce who the pairs are.
And what is the criteria of the selection process?
When you say criteria, I wonder, Yasmin, if you want to go over for the artist and academic again, briefly.
Yeah, so logistical. So academics need to have a contract that goes beyond the end date of this program. And academic at any level can apply from PhD. We've had lots of different types of academics, and we bear that in mind when we pair them with the artist. What is the criteria of the selection process? I think in terms of like what's put in the application, to show a willingness that you are open to collaborate on an equal footing. That's the key driver for this program. I think those are the same for the artist as well.
And Hannah's asked, to what extent should we propose specific activities? I think that means in terms of meeting up with after you've been paired up. I'm assuming that this question is, what kind of activities should you do? Like Sue and Morgan went to the museums and went to each other's studios. I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah, it really depends on the themes that you're exploring, what's relevant. I know some people, some groups in the past have gone on walks because they had a really strong connection, their projects had a really strong connection to nature. So I think that really is dependent on the pair and the interests of the pair.
Yeah, and so that will be decided the two people that are matched as a pair, you'll have that conversation and sort of explore the threads of each of your work, and be able to choose. There's freedom to explore that in what way works for you as a pair.
As asked, she's not strictly an academic, but works closely with environmental researchers as a research software engineer. Is there any scope for people in her team to work with artists, or do they need to be explicitly producing their own research?
I think they need to be producing their own research. But the Cultural Institute is often quite open to collaboration. So if there's an idea for that centre and they'd like to collaborate with artists, then we're certainly up for a conversation.
Charles works at the university as an academic in the arts. Is he able to reply?
As long as you're an academic at the University of Leeds and you want to apply as an academic, then yeah. But we don't accept applications from academics who are applying as academics from other institutions.
Is there accessibility support within writing the application?
Yeah, so yes, so you just need to, Yasmin will send the link to all the information. There'll be an email address on there that you can contact, and we can take it from there to support with that application.
Will participants be expected to be working on climate related work?
It will definitely benefit. One of the questions in the application is, how do you think participating in the arts can support climate action and environmental awareness? So we will capture the responses to that. So yeah, if you don't have a lot of work but you have lots of ideas, then I would still encourage you to apply.
Can artist groups apply, or is it just individual artists? And is the artist fee per person or per project?
Yeah, so it is a single artist to apply. It's not for groups of artists, and the artist fee is for that artist, that person, not the project. That directly artist fee payment.
Yeah, I don't know if I said as well. So there'll be we're looking to make up 6 pairs as part of this iteration.
Yeah, well, that links on to the next question. So you said there was about how many will be paired. You said there were 6 pairings.
Yeah.
Can an academic ask for linking to an artist of a particular media, for example, a painter, while keeping to co-developed work?
I would encourage not to do that because we might see an application from an artist who we think would pair really well with that academic. So I think it's best not to ask for a specific medium.
The academic form asked to share examples of previous collaborations. Does this mean collaboration in general or specifically with artists?
Yeah, that's collaboration in general.
And how important is in the selection process that an artist's previous work to date is directly linked to climate and the theme of the climate futures?
Yeah, so for artists, we have sort of in the application form you'll see is that obviously we ask if there is links to previous work in the climate space, but also it's about your perspective on that and your exploration of that. So you don't necessarily have to have a backlog of having climate specific work, but it may be that you've been developing your thinking around that and the importance of that. And Yasmin, I'm not sure if you want to add anything. to that.
Yeah, totally. I think also, like, for example, if you're interested in futurism and you've done lots of work around futurism, but not bringing in a climate element to it, that still is very relatable.
And this is the last one that I have so far. James is an illustrator and painter who works on climate art, but worked at the university in a managerial role. Is he eligible to apply?
We've never had that before, so I'm not sure. I think my first response is that it's just like ensuring that you have enough time to be able to carry out this program. Everyone that we've worked with in the past have been freelance artists. So let us get back to you on that.
I think any other questions that we've had in the chat, Rebecca has kind of replied to you directly as well. So I think that's it for questions, unless anyone has anything else that they want to ask.
As Yasmin said as well, we also have some slots for you to book in with myself or Yasmin or one of the team where you can ask any questions about the application form, or if you want to check something. So there's that option as well.
I think we've got a hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I wasn't sure if my question was answered. I joined in late, so I'm wondering if session was recorded and will be sent out.
Yeah, it'll be sent out.
Yeah, it has been recorded and it'll be sent out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we've come to the end of our information session. So thank you for everyone for joining us. If you have any other questions, Yasmin, just to check, have you sent the link in here? The link's in the chat to the page of the applications, is that right?
Yeah, Rebecca sent it, but I'll put it in again.
Yeah. And the applications are live, so you can download those and apply, we hope. But thank you everyone for joining us, and we will hopefully hear from you soon. Okay, bye-bye everyone.